How we doing here? I'm full. Yep. Get to it then. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, I do want buffs actually.
You've been examined.
Beaches on the beaches. Yay. There's a zoo, I'll kill him. There's a goblin. Here's a whole bunch of mobs, yeah. Good charmable mobs. And a good goblin to kill. He's the black mage one. He's weak to melee, but he hurts. Gotta stay out of the Agas, but he is good. He drops scrolls and stuff. They took my goblin. Zoo is dying. What? What are you talking about? He is right here. I don't know. You're like glitched or something. I don't know. You want that Dalmo? Okay, I won't take him. It's okay. I want leeches on the beaches if I could get down there. I saw a leech. There we go. He is decent challenge. That is good. Oh, don't miss target. Quick crit. Oh, regeneration, damn it. Come on, loot. Oh, yep, nice. Oh, one. Yep, that's good. Damn, this crawler like chunked through these guys. Hope that ghost doesn't aggro. But it's fine, I can handle it. Okay, what is he at? He's... I think I'll probably charm him. Yeah. Rather than playing like, you know, playing it dangerous here. Yep, and just get on him. I want to watch this. But from behind the ghost. Yeah, watch it up close, right? Oh, it was water gaw. God damn it. Oh, nice. We interrupted the drain. Nice. 3 seconds still reward, which is going to screw the ghost. There we go. Now the ghost is like, oh, I can't kill it. Yep. You're not going to get this leech bit, bitch. Oh, he cursed me for 36 minutes. Son of a bitch. Ah, oh, that hurts.
Your skill has increased.
Fucking... 35-minute curse. It's fine. Stupid curse. He's T, I don't want him. The leech is done for. The crab's T, I don't really want him. Oh, curse sucks. There's an EM crab. Let's do him. We'll have the... Oh my god. I pressed the wrong button. No, I want the EM. Okay, I'm getting sick of the same song. I'm gonna kill it now. Gonna put on, let's go see what's going on in the world. I watched the entire BlizzCon. Scumbag of the year. SPF got 110 years. SPF got 110 years in prison, huh?
Hello, guys and gals.
Thank you, Meterhar, Some Ordinary Gamers. I'd like to sub to your channel. Thank you for the excellent content for my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel, and we'll put you in the corner here.
Else me, Mudahar, and FTX, ladies and gentlemen. What if I told you karma is real? A scumbag has finally been sent to prison. Well, at least sentenced for at least 110 years in prison. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Sam Bankman-Fried, one of the former CEOs of the third largest crypto exchange in the world, FTX, finally, you know, all charges guilty. All right, 110 years in prison.
110 years.
Crypto exchange, for somebody that doesn't know anything about cryptocurrencies, is basically like an exchange.
He'll do 57 and he'll die.
With real money, okay? And
he'll get out at
you
90.
Buy things like Bitcoin, which is the most well-known cryptocurrency, or you can buy.
Yep, they made an example of him. They're like life in jail for what you did. 65 charges of fucking graft or whatever the fuck it is they got him for. Yep, like you know, yeah. People act like the cops don't exist till they knock on your door. It's happened to me enough where I'm like, yeah, they exist.
An alternative coin, which doesn't really have as much value other than getting people to believe that they're going to 1,000 times their investment, okay? It's all rife with scams and nonsense.
Sounds like EVE Online.
Sam Bankman-Fried was thought to be basically the holy savior, the God, the Pathfinder, the Jesus, the Messiah of crypto, being more than just some digital currency. This is something you could potentially buy a real house with one day. Something that could replace the traditional currencies you and I still use. US dollars, rubles, yen, Canadian funny money.
Cowrie bills.
One day it could all be digital ones and zeros. But of course, FTX failed like a fucking burning star, okay? To give you an idea, it was basically the domino effect on crack. November 22. Ladies and gentlemen, CoinDesk, one publication, receives this private document that showcases that FTX, the exchange, and Sam's trading firm at the time, Alameda Research, were actually two separate businesses. Now, CoinDesk, back in November, received a scathing report that actually showcased that apparently Sam, who actually ran FTX, also had his hand in another business, another close-by business, although separate, called Alameda Research. This was effectively known as sort of their trading platform, their trading business. That's what it was. But CoinDesk received a document that showcased that the balance sheets of Alameda Research were built on the FTT token. For those of you who don't know what the FTT token is, the FTT token is the token that powers FTX. So for instance, if you wanted to get a discount on trading fees, you could get that FTT token. If you want higher commissions on referrals, you know, one of those pyramids, that's what it was there for. And of course, if you want some rewards on the side too, there you go. But ladies and gentlemen, the problem is Alameda's balance sheets, or rather a grand majority of them, seem to be built on that FTT token and not actual tangible assets. And this created a problem that we're going to call the leverage problem and possible insolvency. So again, after those concerns kicked in, this domino effect started day after day after day. So one of their chief rivals, and we're talking not just any average rival, like we are talking the Sonic versus, like, I don't know, Mario of rivals in this situation. Like, these people were at each other's throats. CZ, all right, who is one of the heads of Binance, their rival competition, comes out and basically tells people Binance received roughly 2.1
the ghost was a bad
USD
idea.
equivalent in cash. Binance USD and FTT. Due to recent revelations that came to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT token in our books. So again, this absolutely freaked the fuck out of the community. And this is what happens. When the dominoes start falling, at that point, the whole story has gone out. It's a wildfire that cannot be contained. We will try to do something in a way that minimizes market impact. Dog, liquidating your entire holding is not something that minimizes market impact. He knew what he was doing. Let's be real here. Now, can you blame him for holding on to this worthless token? Absolutely not. And what would happen a day pretty much after is obviously the market would freak out. And then CZ came in literally a couple days later, a day later, and said, "This afternoon, FTX asked for our help." Probably unwillingly. There is a significant liquidity crunch to protect users like you, people that were basically affected because their money was tied up in this big exchange, albeit very insolvent. We had signed a non-binding LOI intending to fully acquire FTX and help cover their liquidity crunch. We will be conducting a full due diligence in the coming days. The thing is, when they did their due diligence, they immediately backed off and did not buy FTX. So again, after this whole kerfuffle, the dominoes kept falling and falling and falling. And so what happened later was Bahamian authorities, their regulators, jumped in 2 days later on the 10th of November and pretty much said today, the security commissions of the Bahamas took action to freeze assets of FTX digital markets and related parties. The commission also suspended the registration and applied to the Supreme Court of the Bahamas for an appointed of a provisional liquidator of their digital markets. So yeah, they seized it, and this was obviously not good. Again, remember, it's dominoes. When the dominoes fall, the wildfire spreads.
Fuck you, Sam Bankman-Fried. Fuck you.
Now, November 10th wasn't the point. This happened a few days before anyways. This is just adding more fuel to that fire. So SBF then gets arrested in the Bahamas, and then very shortly after this dude gets extradited to the U.S. government, okay? And at that moment in time, his trial actually begins. Again, SBF was kind of hoping that this wouldn't evolve into the situation, but you have to understand, SBF didn't just scam you and me, the average nobody. He scammed investors. And in the eyes of the U.S. government, you could be a murderer, you could be a goddamn, war criminal. And somehow, ladies and gentlemen, if you manage to piss off the IRS, the SEC, if you manage to piss off people with money, the hammer comes on you harder than anything imaginable, which is exactly what happened to SBF. Now, ever since he was extradited, he pretty much spent the rest of his days in prison. There was a period where he was bailed out on bond for an obscene amount, over $100 million. And then, I shit you not, there was a period of time where even in his trial period, he wanted out because, I shit you not, he needed better internet. Because again, he had poor internet and he had a history with League of Legends. This was speculation. I don't think that he was doing this just to play League. Then again, the mind of somebody like this is truly, you can't really wrap your head around it, okay? This man is screwed. Maybe he's trying to get the last little ounces of freedom he has before ultimately paying for his crimes. And it wasn't just SBF that actually got hit with this stuff too. SBF even brought in a bunch of influencers that had to suffer as well. So inside this district court from the Miami division, this was a class action lawsuit basically highlighting every single tweet that he ever had, but not just every single tweet that he ever had, every time he involved other influencers to be brand ambassadors for FTX. One of the top ones is Diamond Tom Brady, NFL quarterback currently playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is a brand ambassador for FTX. So, not fun. But of course, he's not the only sports person in here. You've got Stephen Curry. You've also, ladies and gentlemen, no joke, you've got Shaquille O'Neal involved into it.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq has his pie in almost every single fucking thing imaginable. I'm not even joking. The Golden State Warriors LLC. After they launched their partnership with FTX in 2022, they were also targeted as well. So of course, tons of brands put their name into this situation, and it was not good for any of them. Because when you promote cryptocurrencies like this, when you promote products like this that could cause serious financial harm without really going into the nitty-gritty of it, this can actually be something that has some serious repercussions. Remember, I don't joke when I look at crypto scams. Usually when you look at any Reddit board associated with a crypto scam, whether it be FTX, whether it be Celsius, whether it be anything, it's always filled after the scam with people who need to call the suicide hotline. And I'm not joking. I'm not
no, that's
putting
what
this
they
to
do.
Damper any mood. I'm just giving you the grim actual reality of
that's
these
how they do it.
This is real people losing real tangible money, and once they've lost, their life savings, your brain goes in a million different directions. And of course, SBF didn't really care about it. He started making these tweets and flooding the hell out of his accounts just because he was deleting a bunch of tweets at the time, it seemed, and he was filling them up. So people could go on Social Blade and not see a deletion, like an amount, like nothing negative in terms of tweet count. So
I don't
people
wanna-
wouldn't really look into like his previous like tweets. But of course, with somebody that has this much scrutiny, obviously they're going to look into
3K.
Bankman-Fried, it was actually even accused that he secretly transferred $4 billion in customer funds from FTX to Alameda without telling anybody. And after Alameda was hit with a series of losses, FTX entities lent more than half of its $16 billion in customer funds, that's your money, to Alameda, with more than $10 billion in loans outstanding. These guys were
Wait,
playing around
you didn't
with your money
change!
in the
You didn't
dumbest ways
change!
imaginable.
You didn't
This
change,
guy
you didn't
wasn't
change, you didn't change.
smart. He was just lucky. And honestly,
You didn't
luck
change, you
will
didn't
only
change.
take you so far. You can't make a mountain out of like shit. Ladies and gentlemen, it will always be shit. FTX was always trash. And unfortunately, and for most people, not this guy, not this clown, for most people, they lost their money, and it was simple as that. There's only so many protections that exist, only so many regulations that exist for this situation. And the thing is, there were three massive problems with this. One, cryptocurrencies, the credibility of it took a massive hit. To understand, FTX falling means that crypto around the board was falling and going into the reds. The people did not actually have any faith in this when one of the largest firms starts breaking down. Then, of course, you had SEC gentlemen and women who looked into this and wanted to actually add more regulations because nobody else needs to be hurt this hard ever again. And of course, there was also a lot of political pressure in terms of this too. There was a lot of donations, I believe, that he made to, like, I believe the Democratic Party at the time too. There was a lot of political power that was slowly being siphoned away because money was being donated to political parties and things were being,
Incoming
I guess you
alert.
would say, swept under the rug, for lack of a better term. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the government couldn't care about this had it not been for the fact that actual investors, serious rich people that you wouldn't find on any list, were actually being hurt because of all this nonsense. And when it comes to honor among thieves, none of that should exist with the FTX. None of that exists anywhere. His girlfriend, everyone that he worked with, pretty much like testified against him and threw him under the bus. And when it came time to take the stand, he had a bunch of charges that were going up against him. So to read it, he got one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, where what it alleged is Sam Bankman-Fried and others had willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together and with each other to commit wire fraud. It was part of the object of conspiracy that SBF and others knowingly having devised and intending to devise a scheme to artifice, to defraud, and for obtaining money and property by means of false and fraudulent pretenses. So to understand what they're basically saying is SBF agreed with others to defraud FTX customers by misappropriating their deposits and using that to pay expenses and debts of Alameda Research, which again is their crypto hedge fund. And they were basically making the shittiest investments possible on your dime, which is exactly one of the reasons why they were so indebted and effectively became insolvent. They weren't making money, they were pissing it away. Then, of course, you've got wire fraud on customers, you've got conspiracy to commit wire fraud on lenders, and then, of course, wire fraud on lenders. You've got count 5, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud. And then, count 6, conspiracy to commit securities fraud. So again, count 7, conspiracy to commit money laundering. So again, this is not good in any capacity, and if you thought those were enough, they got count 8, conspiracy to defraud the United States and violate campaign finance laws, going back to those donations they made to political parties. And on all of those counts, it seems that SBF is found guilty. And because of that, he faces up to 110 years in prison. Now, in reality, do I think he's going to go to a big, tough prison for 110 years? Probably not. To be honest with you, guys like this
55,
probably will get off on some sort of
40,
house arrest.
55.
Maybe they'll get less, maybe they'll get a lesser sentence, or they'll spend it in a cushy situation. Remember, this is a financial crime, not a violent crime. And for people like this, they effectively go to these white-collar prisons, and they spend almost a pretty cushiony life out of it. Sure, they're forever marred in front of their associates and friends and the public, but I don't think SBF will be living too poorly. Honestly, this is a situation where the government, I think, really wanted to make an example of this guy, and they did. 110 years prison sentence is no joke, up to. And I think no matter what, at the end of the day, what's next for the government is probably looking at other influencers or other CEOs in this space. The government doesn't want crypto to keep crashing, okay? Because if crypto keeps crashing, people lose money. And the government's only sole purpose is to be there for the people. If you can't be there for the people and stop them from getting scammed, or stop scammers like this from acting so openly, then you have failed.
It slowed
as a
down, but I
government,
made some
which
money.
In this case, according to FTX and its rise, it does show a level of failure from the government. It even shows some level of corruption. Hopefully, going into the future, people like SBF won't be a thing. And if you're an influencer and a guy like SBF comes up and tells you to promote a dog shit coin, run far away. But ladies and gentlemen, karma strikes, karma wins, and, you know, goddamn. Hope this dude enjoys white collar prison. Goddamn.
Yep.
I'm gonna go out and enjoy some fucking freedom. Ladies
Yep,
and
I'm gonna
gentlemen,
enjoy my freedom. Shit, I go for a walk right now if it was in the middle of the night. You know, I love my freedom. Tomorrow I'm gonna walk for like an hour at least. Probably just do some jogging. I love my freedom. I love that I'm not in the system. Love that I'm not dealing with it. Fuck it. You know. Come on, man. Nobody wants ports. The minute that I gear up and get ready for ports and stuff, I'll just switch out.
Incoming
Oh,
town.
forgot to thank you. Sorry. Oh, you're good. You're good.
And yeah.
The illegal bootlegs that broke the internet from Wavy Web
To
Surf.
me, some of the most hilariously intriguing controversies in online discourse are those involving bootlegs. Yes, we've all seen these viral stories showing knockoff
Okay, I'm gonna
products,
switch shops, I
copycat
guess.
Chinese companies, and blatantly obvious instances of intellectual property theft. Some cases so egregious that it's downright comical. From fake Jordans with phallic appendages to offensive Asian KFC ripoffs replacing the Colonel with Barack Obama to video games illegally using Disney characters to simulate C-section surgery. The imagination of bootleggers is seemingly limitless. And today I'll be taking you on a tour through some of the brands, knockoff products, and companies that have been wrapped up in bootlegging controversies. Some of these stories ending in costly civil lawsuits. These are the internet's most bizarre bootlegs. Today's video is sponsored by Keeps, and to begin the ad, let me show you my hair from some old videos back in 2020. Yeah, your boy was losing hair and losing it fast. I didn't want to go bald, so I decided to do something about my hair loss and got started with Keeps, and the results have been pretty insane. Here's me at 6 months after starting Keeps, a year after starting, almost 2 years after starting, and here's me now, 3.5 years after starting Keeps, and your boy's looking pretty good. Keeps offers generic versions of the 2 FDA-approved hair loss products at a can't-beat price, and best of all, you skip the trip to the doctor's office and pharmacy. Keeps will set you up with a prescriber online and ship your prescription right to your front door, and in 4 to 6 months, you should start seeing results. Look, I've been using Keeps for most of my YouTube career at this point. It works, and if you're a guy that's having some anxiety about hair loss, there's no better time than now to start Keeps. To get started, you guys can go to keeps.com/wavy and use code WAVY to take advantage of their special offer. Big thanks to Keeps for sponsoring. So how about a story involving a very recent case of bootlegging? The Mexican Buc-ee's incident. Buc-ee's is a staple of Texas, and it's successfully spreading to other regions of the United States for good reason. We're talking locations with over 200 fuel pumps, a sprawling market filled wall-to-wall with signature snacks, beverage, and Buc-ee the Beaver merchandise, a hot bar constantly serving fresh brisket sandwiches, baked goods, and tacos. Now, aside from all the amenities that they provide, Buc-ee's has also become successful in part due to the popularity of their logo, or mascot,
Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee the Beaver. Their beaver mascot is found on practically every product sold in the store, and I'd be willing to bet you've seen some folks in your town wearing shirts or hats featuring this beaver. And with a business and intellectual property as hot as Buc-ee's, it's no surprise that some out there have attempted to illegally make use of some of Bucky's trademarks. Which brings us to the bizarre case of the Mexican Bucky's. On July 23rd of 2023, a photo was uploaded to Facebook by a man named Ramon Montalongo. The caption, which has been translated from Spanish to English, reads, "You are not going to believe this." Apparently photographed just out of the city of Matamoros, Mexico, Ramon's photo appeared to have exposed a previously undetected Bucky's bootlegging operation. His image showcased a store that was under construction, this ramshackle concrete building featuring some rather curious signage and logo work. The joint was called Buck E's, the E's spelled with two I's instead of EES. And its exterior walls also featured imagery of a grotesque-looking buck-toothed rat creature. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, look at this Family Dollar-ass Bucky's we got here. So as you can clearly see, the intent with this Mexican Buc-ee's was to jack the swag of the Texas-based company. Ramon's photo showcasing this apparent bootleg operation would subsequently go viral on Facebook. The comment section of his post flooded with a seemingly endless stream of laughing emojis. However, when news of this bootleg Bucky's made it back to Bucky's in Texas, well, the company wasn't taking this as any kind of joke, and as a matter of fact, they were pretty pissed off about it. Several days after being made aware of the Mexican Buc-ee's, they put out this statement. The Buc-ee's brand represents clean restrooms, freshly prepared food, and great service. Buc-ee's has invested heavily in
I love the
innovation
clean
across the
restrooms
company
comes
to really
first.
maintain these award-winning guest experiences. Accordingly, Buc-ee's will not stand as an idle
Not
spectator
Buc-ee's.
while others use without permission the intellectual property that Buc-ee's has cultivated
Buc-ee's.
for decades. And after this statement, there were rumors
Buc-ee's is
floating
going to
around
war.
that Buc-ee's was going after Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's is going to war.
It's important to note that Buc-ee's has somewhat of a
Buc-ee's.
track record of going after companies legally for
Yeah, don't fuck with
copyright and
Buc-ee's. It's a
trademark
kids
infringement,
brand.
and have actually been
Don't
pretty
fuck with it.
successful in these regards. For example, in 2018, Buc-ee's won a federal trademark lawsuit against a Texas barbecue restaurant chain
Oh
called
my
Choke
God, you have the
Canyon
wrong
Barbecue.
rings on
The
again.
basis of this suit being that Choke Canyon
Why do you
violated
do
their
this to
trademark
me?
by using this logo and
You gotta
mascot.
stop doing
A
that to me.
hat-wearing alligator flashing a smile in front of a yellow background, looking up and to the left. Putting Choke
Up
Canyon
and to
next
the
to
left.
Buc-ee's, you
Up
can
and to
kind
the
of
left.
see where the
Up
company was coming
and to the
from here.
left.
And with both joints being known for their barbecue brisket,
Both
I can
joints.
understand why Buc-ee's had some qualms with this. In the time since Buc-ee's has made their
Buc-ee's.
comment on the Mexican bootleg, it appears
Mexican
that Buc-ee's
bootleg.
store has completely redesigned their mascot
Buc-ee's.
and front signage in what seems to be an effort to placate the company and possibly avoid future litigation. As you can see,
Future
the mascot
litigation.
has lost the red cap and has gone through a complete makeover. Looks
Mini
like he
Super
grew a little
Bucky
bit of a mullet,
twos.
too. Which is fucking hilarious to me though, because now with this redesign done, it almost appears like they're kind of stealing the generic chipmunk design that you see in Disney animations, but I digress. As of now, I can't find any evidence of a lawsuit being filed against the company, but considering this is a recent story, I wouldn't be
Buc-ee's.
surprised if an update comes forward.
I need axes.
And here we are, KFC. KFC is a fast food staple, and the Colonel's chicken has become famous around the world. Internationally, KFC is particularly popular in Asian countries. And because of this, many Asian merchants and entrepreneurs want to get franchising
Oh, you put me on the
rights
wrong
to sell
axe
the food.
again.
However, it can be quite difficult
I'm just gonna
for
sell that
international
fucking axe.
sellers to get these rights.
What?
And in some cases,
That'll
when
axe, damn it.
individuals can't legally take advantage of the Colonel's branding, they get a little creative. And that's what brings us to the story of Obama Fried Chicken, or OFC. In October of 2011,
Oh, it's the wrong
images began
fucking
to surface on
set.
social media showing what appeared to be a KFC restaurant in Beijing, China. However, instead of the face of Colonel Sanders being in the logo, it was the visage of then-President Barack Obama, smiling from ear to ear. The slogan at the bottom of the sign can be translated as saying, "We're so cool, aren't we?" The restaurant was called OFC, aka Obama Fried Chicken.
Obama
Not
Fried
only was
Chicken.
this restaurant infringing on KFC's IP, with them basically stealing the brand theming.
Fried chicken.
The inclusion of Barack Obama here in the context of it being a fried chicken restaurant is extremely questionable, to say the least. The owner of this restaurant would be identified as 21-year-old Chinese
Obama
man
Fried
Zhu Bao.
Chicken.
Initially, his motives for including
Yes.
Obama's branding were unclear.
Obama
but
Fried
many made their
Chicken.
own assumptions. Naturally, the logo sparked quite the outrage in the West.
God damn
and
it, I cannot
KFC
get this
wasn't
item
all too
out.
happy
It's
about
driving
the
me
Colonel swapping
crazy.
either. When the story hit the U.S. media,
Girl.
Reverend and civil rights activist Al Sharpton denounced the Obama fried chicken restaurant and said it was, quote, insulting, offensive, and plays to racial stereotypes. A KFC
In your
China
mind.
spokesman echoed this sentiment and stated they were extremely displeased
It's just
with
random.
the uses of their trademark and were considering suing OFC.
Obama fried chicken.
As it's a knockoff and has nothing to do with us and infringes on our
Obama
brand
fried
trademark. We find it
chicken.
distasteful. However, speaking on this
They
matter,
find it
in a way
distasteful,
backfired for KFC.
Come on, it's funny.
Because they were almost immediately met with critics that reminded them that
You should laugh,
KFC,
and
you
you're a
guys
human
literally
being.
commissioned a Chinese KFC commercial earlier in that same year that had an Obama lookalike.
Yep.
Change.
Change.
Not only for America, but for the whole world. Not only for your mom, but for you, for your stomach, for a better taste.
KFC. Obama, KFC, Obama. So like what? Like even the kid was even influenced by the commercial.
In fairness to KFC, they would later
And then so
apologize
it
for
was
this
like Obama
commercial,
fried
stating,
chicken.
quote, it was meant to be a spoof and no disrespect was intended. And I really don't think they meant any harm by this. The commercial was more so about Obama's change slogan. You know, they're going from
Yeah,
changing.
yeah,
from
they're just like
KFC
Obama.
chicken
What's wrong with that?
sandwiches
They
to,
like
hey, we also
Obama.
have fish
I like Obama.
sandwiches
Whatever.
too. Whatever the case, there were some folks that were upset about that commercial. But anyways, back to OFC. Even
I
the
voted
Chinese
for him.
locals were upset about Obama fried chicken.
Obama
as
fried
apparently Zu's
chicken.
Obama chicken was actually quite
Obama
delicious and
chicken.
popular with customers.
This is my kind of
Thanks in
humor. It's so
part to the
stupid.
recognizability
OFC.
of Zu's KFC-style brand food, the
Obama
shop
fried
was outselling
chicken.
and
Obama fried chicken. Damn it.
eating nearby street food merchants. During this
Obama
controversy,
fried
It
chicken.
seemed like everyone in the world had weighed in on it, except for Zhu himself. In October of 2011, a news crew would manage to catch up with Zhu outside of his OFC restaurant and finally asked him why he used Obama as the mascot for his fried chicken joint. The answer might not be what you expected.
So?
In this interview, Zhu would explain that he had somewhat of an Obama obsession. And
Yeah, what's wrong with
deeply
that?
admired the U.S. president for what he describes as having a positive attitude
Yeah,
and cheerful
good
smile.
guy, yeah.
He claims that he had no intention of being offensive or violating KFC's trademark or invoking any racial stereotypes. Keep in mind, this story took place back in 2011, which was during Obama's first term, and this was probably the peak of the man's international popularity. He was famous all over the world. The man was loved by many internationally due to his charismatic persona.
Yeah, what's wrong with
In fact,
Obama
some
fried
folks
chicken?
would actually
Nothing.
capitalize off of the love for Obama. Often
And my
making
love for
fake
fried chicken.
bootleg Obama merchandise and using him in logos for their own trade benefits. So it's possible that Zhu got caught up in this frenzy, but maybe
Zhu doesn't even come from the same country that Obama ran president. Who the fuck cares?
Engaged in here. It's really tough to say, but
Is
I'm
Obama
almost
gonna
willing to
sue
give this
him?
guy the
No.
benefit of the doubt because
Like-
he seems like more of an Obama fan than anything.
Yeah,
In
what's
an
wrong with
apparent
that?
effort
Like-
to placate KFC and their legal threats, Zhu would eventually change the name of OFC to UFO. And after some pressure from local authorities, he would reluctantly remove the infamous Obama fried chicken sign.
Obama
Despite
fried
the
chicken.
massive worldwide discourse that followed this controversy,
Yeah, but-
you might be surprised
but
to
it probably
find that
did
Zhu
well
was
for his
never
restaurant.
legally pursued by KFC in any serious capacity.
Obama fried
And as far
chicken.
as we know, he continues to operate restaurants to
Great.
this day.
Good
And
for
that
him.
was the story
Smart
of
man.
Obama fried chicken.
Obama fried chicken.
In this video, we previously discussed the Obama fried chicken incident.
Obama fried
A
chicken.
Chinese man used the face of a world leader to sell chicken. And while that's indeed quite bizarre, what if I told you there was a
How
case
bizarre.
of a chicken salesman who rebranded his restaurant featuring logo and iconography of one of the most infamous world leaders ever? Yes, this is the story
Oh, no.
of Hitler Fried Chicken.
Hitler fried
From
chicken.
London was on vacation in Bangkok, Thailand, when he came across a curious fast
What?
food restaurant. He took a photo of the place and
Hitler
published his
fried
findings
chicken.
to the internet, where the photo would then be shared to Twitter by a man named
Of course it
Andrew
was.
Spooner. Spooner's tweet quotes the Londoner who discovered it. Quote, "Very bizarre fried chicken shop in Thailand. I kid you not, complete with a picture of Hitler in a bow tie. Taking a look at the image,
Oh,
we see
God.
that the fast food joint had apparently swapped the face of Colonel Sanders with that of the genocidal Fuhrer, and was using Hitler to
Genocidal Führer.
chicken selling goals. And what you might find surprising is that this restaurant was said to have been somewhat popular with locals, getting rave reviews. Hitler Chicken had opened in June of 2013, and on its menu were fried chicken, burgers, and kebabs. A Western traveler who visited the spot said, quote, "I went in for a bite last week and got some fried chicken, which was pretty good. I asked the guy behind the counter why it was called Hitler. He just shrugged his shoulders and said the owners had thought it was a good image." I couldn't think of a fucking better image to represent a chicken restaurant. You know, guys? Seriously. So naturally, this post would go somewhat viral online for just the fucking batshit juxtaposition that we got going on here. Hitler Chicken would leave the online world scratching their heads. Why would anybody use
All this talk about
Hitler
food.
as
I'm gonna
their
have dinner
mascot?
now.
And
I'll
not
be right
only
back.
that, why was it working? Well, to better make sense of this bizarre marketing ploy, allow me to introduce you to what has been dubbed as Nazi chic. Nazi chic has been described as the use of style, imagery, and paraphernalia in clothing or pop culture related to Nazi Germany. Throughout the 2010s, Nazi chic had become somewhat of a fad within Southeast Asia, Thailand in particular. It was quite popular with the youth, who were the ones who were the most ignorant of Hitler's deeds and symbolism. In fact, it's said that at the time that it wasn't all too uncommon to find school children dressing up as Nazis, and bootleggers were selling Nazi-themed t-shirts and artwork around the country because people wanted this type of apparel. And while it's impossible to say why this symbolism was so popular in Southeast Asia at the time, I'll just go back to what I said earlier. I think you had a lot of young people who were just completely ignorant about what Hitler did. I think the Holocaust is something we know way more about as Westerners, and maybe, you know, it's not really talked about that much in Asia. To exemplify the popularity of Nazi chic at the time, there was once a case in 2016 involving a Taiwanese high school orchestrating a Christmas parade, wherein the students dressed up and marched in Nazi-themed uniforms, performing Zig Heils and constructing a cardboard tank to boot. And apparently the theme of this parade was voted on by the students themselves. This parade would go viral online and drew international criticism, resulting in the school administrators being humiliated and later apologizing for the parade. Quote, "When reviewing the parade beforehand, we failed to closely consider the meaning of the historical facts." I mean, seriously, it's like they're treating the garb as like a fucking Halloween costume, you know? And with this context explained, let's return back to Hitler Fried Chicken. When this image went viral in the West, many were confused, but a lot more were outraged by it, understandably so. And considering the fact that Hitler's face was swapped with Colonel Sanders and they were using the KFC theming, it was only a matter of time before the KFC people came after this Hitler Chicken place. After discovering the viral Hitler Fried Chicken image, the company would make a statement regarding the shop. "We find it extremely distasteful and are considering legal
I mean, like,
action
fuck off.
since it's an
Stop doing
infringement
that,
of our
you know,
brand trademark
or
and
whatever.
has
I don't want
nothing
to tell you what
do
to
with
do,
us.
but
These threats appeared
you probably
to
shouldn't, like,
successfully spook
proliferate
the owners,
Hitler.
As after
you know?
KFC spoke up, Hitler Fried Chicken changed its name to H'ler. and
H'ler.
allegedly took a sign down featuring the KFC
Oh
style
my
branding.
God.
There's not much else to report about this story,
And
it's
the
said
restaurant did
that
amazing.
Southeast Asia's fascination with Hitler still remains to this day,
Oh,
at least
God.
in a smaller proportion.
No thanks.
In the world of fictional restaurants, the Krusty Krab might just be the most iconic. Owned and operated by Eugene Krabs of Bikini Bottom, this penny-pinching crustacean has made a great fortune over the years off the backs of SpongeBob and Squidward. Krabs' arch nemesis is rival fast food restaurant owner Sheldon J. Plankton, who restlessly attempts to steal Mr. Krabs' Krabby Patty's secret formula.
Gee,
You
is that
might
what
say that
SpongeBob
Plankton
is?
an intellectual property thief of sorts. But as we all know, Plankton has yet to be successful at stealing Mr. Krabs' formula.
Mr.
What if
Krabs.
I told you that a Texas-based restaurant was?
I
The
love
story begins
SpongeBob,
in
but I haven't watched it in
2021 when
15
a
or 20
company
years.
called Pixie Universal opened a SpongeBob-themed pop-up restaurant in Houston, Texas. Funded by a businessman named Sam Chand, this restaurant was called the Rusty Krab. And these guys really pulled out all the stops when it comes to looking like the real Krusty Krab. The Rusty Krab sold SpongeBob-themed food items and drinks.
Oh, come
Krabby
on,
Patties
guys.
included. And the restaurant's interior featured an and admittedly...
Hey, if you feed your family, I guess why not?
Mr. Krabs' diner. However, while the theming was well executed, the food and drink quality wasn't getting the ravest of reviews. Customers complained about having to pay for a ticket to get in. The food and drink prices were high as well, and an excessive amount of mandatory gratuity was added to each bill. Which this is hilarious to me because all the stuff I just mentioned sounds like some shit that Mr. Krabs would pull in the Krusty Krab. Money! Now keep in mind, this restaurant was in no way licensed by Nickelodeon or SpongeBob. And that begs the question, is this legal? At the time, Mr. Chand claimed that the Rusty Krab was an artistic interpretation of the fictional restaurant and had no affiliation with the actual brand. The website said, quote, "We are not affiliated, authorized, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with Nickelodeon or the SpongeBob brand directly, or any of its subsidiaries or its affiliates. This is Keffy HTX's artistic adaptation, recreation of an amazing series that added value to our childhood." So yeah, they were very much forthcoming that they had nothing to do with SpongeBob. It's not like they were trying to hide from it. And it's almost as if they seem like they would be protected legally by some sort of parody exemption under IP and trademark law. In this news interview, a woman named Asha, who was apparently affiliated with ownership, candidly spoke about the show and how it was her dream to open a Krusty Krab style diner one day.
So, like a lot of folks, I'm a huge SpongeBob fan, so I was very excited about this. We've got Asha, she is the owner, and you helped bring the Rusty Krab to life. Talk about this experience.
Yes, well, I've been a SpongeBob fan literally since I was about 10 years old, so this is a lifelong dream of mine to be able to recreate something that was so nostalgic in my childhood. I really wanted to give it a feel of people actually being in Bikini Bottom, and I believe you nailed it, don't you think?
You guys absolutely.
Despite the complaints from prices, the Rusty Krab would be somewhat of a popular attraction in Houston, but its virality online would be an issue, as eventually it found its way back to Viacom CBS, the at-the-time owners of SpongeBob. On May 25th of 2021, Viacom
gonna pause the
sent a
video
cease
for
and
while I
desist
eat.
letter to the Rusty Krab. However, after receiving this letter, the very next day, the Rusty Krab announced that it was extending its run through August 1st,
I went the wrong
and
way.
that tickets would be available to enter until the end of 2021. Taking this as a signal that the Rusty Krab wasn't going to cease or desist, Viacom decided they were just going to sue him. In their lawsuit, Viacom comments that the restaurant featured illustrations and designs that were exact copies of those featured in their SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon. In addition to this, they
You've been
cite
examined.
workers dressed up just like the characters from the show. As a defense, the owners at Pixie Universal would state that the Rusty Krab was made as parody, and that their imitation of the restaurant should be
That's just
allowed under
parody.
parody exemptions and copyright law. However, unfortunately for the Rusty Krab, a judge would disagree, as it was later determined that the Rusty Krab had violated Viacom's intellectual property rights. As a result of this lawsuit, the company behind the creation of the Rusty Krab was ordered by the courts to pay $6 million in copyright damages to Paramount, who had recently acquired Viacom, as well as the transfer of all Rusty Krab online domain names to Paramount as well. I gotta say, I'm honestly kind of conflicted on this one because of the videos that I've seen of the inside of the Rusty Krab, they did a damn good job of imitating the cartoon version of the restaurant. So I guess the next thing I'd like to ask is, like, Paramount, can you guys make your own Krusty Krab at Universal or whatever fucking park
Yeah.
Nickelodeon is associated with? That would be pretty sick. But that was the story of the Rusty Krab.
Bimbos. Michael saw
In this
bimbos.
next story, we'll be looking at a bootleg-adjacent internet mystery that began all the way back in 2001. That mystery only being solved as recently as 2021. This is the strange case of the curiously named business, Microsoft Bimbos. This is how that mystery all begins on July 20th of 2001 on Alf's Room, a Japanese blog managed by a man in his 50s named Yoshinori Adachi. On this day, Adachi would post a blog entry titled Microsoft Bimbos. It contained an image of what appeared to be an electronics store of the same name. And on the surface, this looked like the store owner was attempting to create like a bootleg version of a Microsoft store. Adachi took and uploaded the photo himself, simply finding the obvious Microsoft-inspired theming of the business to be humorous. While at face value, the name Microsoft Bimbo seems like nothing more than an amalgamation of random vowels and consonant sounds, there's actually more than what meets the eye here. The word Microsoft being used as the Japanese pronunciation of Microsoft can sometimes sound like this when spoken natively. And the word bimbo is a Japanese word that can be roughly translated in English to mean cheap. So add these two together, you get Microsoft Bimbos, a store that sells cheap electronic/computer parts, I guess. The Microsoft Bimbos post on Adachi's
Microsoft Bimbos
initially and would soon be forgotten as few visited this page. But his photo would live on. Several years later, the Microsoft Bimbos image
every time he says it, I crack up. God damn it.
The image became a popular
Microsoft Bimbos.
R/crappy off-brands, with many pointing to the business
Microsoft
as a cliche
Bimbos.
Asian bootleg company. However, at this point, the attribution to Adachi had been lost and nobody really knew the source of this image. This was problematic because many were wondering where this business was located and what it did, as some wanted to actually go there and check it out. As Microsoft Bimbos grew as a meme, its popularity expanded to a small legion of internet detectives who would then task themselves with cracking the Microsoft Bimbos mystery. One such individual was YouTuber Nick Robinson, who in 2021 managed to rediscover Adachi's long-lost Alf Room post that was published nearly 20 years prior regarding Microsoft Bimbos.
Microsoft
Nick would then
Bimbos.
arduously scry over Adachi's blog post and report his findings to his large viewer base. In a subsequent video, he would communicate these findings, reading several comments found in the old blog in his report. One old comment to the blog revealed that Microsoft Bimbos had actually closed down since Adachi authored his post in 2001. Here are some of the messages authored by Adachi and an anonymous user on the old blog. Used PC and parts shop Microsoft Bimbos. It's a suspicious name.
Microsoft
It's a parody of
Bimbos.
Microsoft Windows. It's a used PC and parts shop, isn't it? In other words, it's a hardware store, right? That's true, but the name is Microsoft. Is that okay with such a name? The logo mark is just the reverse of the Windows one. I think Microsoft will complain. It wouldn't be strange to come, though it appears the store closed around the end of 2002. Nick found that Adachi's blog post also featured the location of where the man took the famous Microsoft Bimbos photo. This picture was apparently taken by Adachi in Maebashi City in Kogimachi, Japan. Nick's visit to this long-lost ancient blog post answered a lot of questions regarding the Microsoft Bimbos mystery that had sprung up in the early 2010s. However, the biggest question was where exactly was the Microsoft Bimbos building? Yes, according to Adachi, it had been closed down, but people still wanted to know where this place was. Not one to leave stones unturned, Nick refused to yield on his quest to fully solve the Microsoft Bimbos puzzle. And with unwavering dedication to the cause, he then tasked himself to scan the entirety of Maebashi City using Google VR, in the hopes of basically brute forcing his way into finding the old Microsoft Bimbos building. You know, basically looking around and seeing if he could find a structure that matched the image. One might say this would be like finding a needle in a haystack. However, after countless hours of what likely at the time felt like a hopeless endeavor, Nick Robinson stumbles upon a miracle. The madman actually fucking found the building. Through brute force and a bit of luck, Nick was able to locate the building, which was formerly Microsoft Bimbos. He would publish the address to the internet, and all things considered, that was the end of a 20-year-long internet mystery. Microsoft Bimbos had been solved. Nick's video was met with much fanfare online. As coming from someone who has solved some internet mysteries myself, it's a good feeling and deserves praise whenever someone cracks an old one like this. So shout out to Nick. The cherry on top of this story is that Nick would actually travel in real life to the location of the Microsoft Bimbos sometime after finding it virtually. The Microsoft Bimbos computer hardware store had since been converted into a restaurant, which Nick would eat and drink at. A rather satisfying conclusion to one of the biggest mysteries in internet bootleg history. I'd imagine that few of you are surprised to find Disney in a video about bootlegging. As the owner of some of the most valuable intellectual property in the world, Disney is constantly subjected to bootlegging efforts. Generally, this takes the form of unauthorized retailers selling counterfeit merchandise. And while this is certainly the most damaging form of theft, I honestly think the more intriguing cases of Disney bootlegging have come from people trying to make fake movies and video games using their characters. Take for example the case of the Autobots, which is considered to be by some the most egregious and shameless case of Chinese bootlegging ever. Autobots was a movie produced by a Chinese production studio called Blue MTV Movie Studio in 2015.
Oh, so bad.
卡卡，男，8岁，一个有梦想、上进、快乐的好孩子，是一个顶尖的汽车工程师。
So this is Autobots. Obviously, the name is just straight up jacking the Transformers, but the name really only scratches the surface of the IP thievery we've got going on here. Let's take a closer look at the poster. Taking a look at the movie's poster,
Oh, no.
there's another problem.
Cars.
This is just straight up cars, and that's like scuffed Lightning McQueen right there. Getting into the film itself, we find that Autobot's plot revolves around an engineer whose experiments result in anthropomorphic vehicles, each with various conflicting personality traits. The vehicles having to work together despite their differences to win difficult races. Autobot's protagonist and shameless Lightning McQueen knockoff is a character dubbed K1. The scene from the movie that I'm about to show you simultaneously introduces the character and showcases the dog shit quality of this movie. So yeah, there's really no reason for me to like point by point break down this movie. This is a Cars knockoff. It's the bootleg to end all bootlegs, seriously. And people were quick to catch on to this. After Autobot's release in China, clips and posters related to the movie would find their way to the screens of Western internet users, and it wouldn't be long before Disney sniffed out the bootleg. Keep in mind, this was a movie actually showing in Chinese theaters. After discovering what they saw as blatant IP theft, Disney would file a lawsuit against the Blue MTV Movie Studio in China, taking them to court late in 2016. Disney would later win a settlement of $195,000 due to the Autobots theft. And yes, as you can see in the case of the Autobots, Disney's characters are often used to create bootleg animations and movies. But there have been a small example of cases where Disney characters are used to make unauthorized video games, sometimes to disturbing effect. One particular incident of this occurred in early 2015 when a mobile game app appeared on app stores wherein you played as an OBGYN and using surgical tools and witchcraft performed a C-section on Anna from Frozen. The entire game relying heavily on characters taken from the Disney Frozen universe. The game begins with the player checking the baby's heartbeat using a fetal heart monitor. Then users are instructed to pick up a scalpel and perform a C-section on the Disney character. Many on YouTube would play this app because it was so shocking and they would get views, and as a result of this it got exposure and some outrage followed. Many would chime in on social media complaining about the graphic game, fearing that kids would accidentally play it and become traumatized. Please do not download or play Anna Gives Birth. It will ruin Frozen and scar you for life. In light of the discovery of this unauthorized game, the Frozen C-section simulator has since been pulled from App Store, and as far as I'm aware, no legal suit ever came out of this situation. In recent years, Bluey has established
Give
itself
Frozen
as
a
the
C-section.
top dog when it comes to children's entertainment programming. This widely beloved kids show has won numerous awards since first airing in 2018 and is consumed by families around the world, with parents praising Bluey for the show teaching children important life lessons. Any of you guys out there with kids know just how popular Bluey is, and I know there's some adults out there that watch the show as well. Hopefully that doesn't turn into another brony situation, but I digress. Unfortunately, though, with any children's IP that becomes popular, there are going to be some bad actors out there that try to profit off of children. And sometimes this leads to kids getting traumatized. Those of you who have been on YouTube for some time are most likely familiar with ElsaGate. ElsaGate was, and to some extent still is, an ongoing YouTube crisis involving dubious content creators stealing popular children's IP and using it to create explicit cartoons and bootleg animations featuring these characters for financial gain. This disturbing content insidiously finds its way into the YouTube algorithm of children, and kids have been inadvertently traumatized by this deceptive content on many occasions. Sadly, because of Bluey's popularity in recent years, it has become the target of these bootleggers.
What?
Bluey is now commonly used to make ElsaGate-style animations, with thousands of these videos bubbling up on YouTube in the past couple of years. Some of these Bluey ElsaGate videos feature outright violence, while others include scat fetishes or simply encourage children to misbehave. Many parents have caught their children watching these videos and have gone public on social media to express their concerns. Quote, "Has anyone seen this? My husband put it on for our daughter, and it's not Bluey. Honestly, I just turned it off ASAP, so I don't know what happens, but Bluey and Bingo were crying in the first scene. It's ridiculous what they do to kids shows. All of these shows are turned into inappropriate, poorly animated videos. It's disgusting. I won't let my kids watch this version. It's odd and weird things happen. My 3-year-old screamed and shut it off one day because the parents were hitting Bluey and Bingo, and it freaked them out. That was the day YouTube got removed from the TV. With outcry from parents and the media, this Bluey bootlegging has been quelled to some extent by YouTube, with Bluey bootlegs regularly being taken down after reports. But as we saw with the original ElsaGate trend in 2018, it seems impossible to fully stop the producers of this content, though I'd imagine it's only a matter of time before the show's producer, the BBC, steps in and protects its IP legally. That being said, though, there is one front of the Bluey IP battle that BBC has already launched an attack on, that being the rampant production of bootleg Bluey merchandise. Around the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, online retailers like Amazon, Wish, Alibaba, and eBay became flooded with bootleg Bluey merchandise. This illegal merchandise was becoming so popular that it started cutting into the profits of the official BBC stuff. And as a result of this,
Your skill has increased.
In 2023, the BBC initiated a blanket lawsuit targeting a number of online sellers. The case was filed on June 20th of 2023 in Chicago, Illinois. BBC Studios Distribution has demanded that the courts prevent the defendants from using Bluey trademarks, which has been used on everything from t-shirts to electronic toothbrushes. The company has also
Your
asked
skill has
Amazon,
increased.
Walmart, Alibaba, eBay, AliExpress, Wish, Etsy, and DHgate to halt selling any imitation Bluey products. The lawsuit is still ongoing, but I'd imagine there'll probably be more to come, as Bluey remains the top dog and the bootleggers are still going forward on all cylinders. When you think of bootlegs, one of the first things that comes to mind is probably Michael Jordan's shoes, or Jordans. I would be remiss if I didn't discuss Jordan in a video about bootlegs. Initially launched in collaboration with Michael Jordan and Nike in April of 1985, Air Jordan shoes would go on to become a worldwide phenomenon and have evolved over the years to become one of the world's most iconic and lucrative brands. Even more iconic than the name Air Jordan is the upholstered logo found on almost every pair of Jordans, the Jumpman. The logo, which was inspired by a real-life photo taken of Michael Jordan, has accrued legendary status in terms of brand identity. You could even say that it metaphorically occupies a
kill him
at the pantheon of God.
Oh God, he's gonna kill me. What? How are you not dead yet? Fucking die. Too
It goes
close.
without saying Air Jordans
close.
are highly coveted by consumers, and
Stupid
they aren't
goblin.
cheap to buy, often listed at MSRP prices in the hundreds of dollars. And due to their high price and coveted nature, it's no surprise that bootlegs have plagued the brand almost since the day of its inception.
This motherfucker got them fake keys! We gotta get out of here.
Bootleg Jordans can be rather convincing at times, and sometimes not so much. Convincing ones certainly do undermine the brand. Even wealthy celebrities get tricked into purchasing bogus Jordans. In fact, rapper Kendrick Lamar went viral somewhat recently after he was shown wearing fake Jordans in a photo posted to his private Instagram account. Other famous viral bootlegging incidents have been far less convincing, such as this notorious pair of bootlegged Jordans that appeared on Reddit. The shoes featuring a Jumpman logo, albeit with a curious additional appendage. And there are a litany of other examples of terribly executed fake Jordans. With fake Jordans being an almost perpetual plague on the company, it's no surprise that there have been some pretty hefty lawsuits filed, particularly ones involving China. In August of 2007, Nike won 2 lawsuits against 2 Chinese shoemakers as well as a French supermarket chain that had been allegedly copying the prized Air Jordan logo and selling it on shoes. Nike employees had found shoes being sold for $13 a pair in outlets operated at these facilities. Nike was seeking $131,000 in damages as a result of this incident. While this lawsuit against Chinese bootleggers was an easy win, subsequent ones would prove quite difficult. Several years later, Michael Jordan himself would issue a lawsuit against a Chinese footwear company that he was accusing of stealing the Air Jordan's intellectual property. The company was called Jiaodan Sports. Jiaodan is literally a Chinese pronunciation of the name Jordan, and the company also had their own variation of the Jordan Jumpman logo. Michael Jordan saw this as them misappropriating his name for a quick buck. In comments regarding the case, Michael would comment that it was not about the money, but the principle and protecting his identity.
It's not about the money. It's about principle. Protecting my identity, my name. I have no other choice but to turn to the courts. I feel the need to protect my name, my identity, and the Chinese consumer.
Unfortunately for him, though, the case was rejected in the lower courts in Beijing in 2012. Undeterred by this initial ruling, Michael Jordan brought the case to the Beijing Higher People's Court, but again, the courts ruled against the basketball star in 2015.
They're like, nah, we can rip you off.
Jiaodan is definitely named Jordan and selling shoes with logos similar to yours. But they could just be referring to any guy in the world named Jordan. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're referring or copying you, Mr. Michael. The court also commented that the logo Jiaodan used lacked any facial features, so there would be no way that any consumers would identify this product with Michael Jordan, I guess. The Chinese courts boiled the issue down to a simple case of transliteration. Transliteration means using letters of another language to closely approximate the sound and pronunciation of a word. Jiaodan, Jordan, get it? Losing in the courts was a big setback for Michael Jordan, but it wasn't the end of the matter for him. Jordan has always been described as a ceaseless competitor, and in litigation, the character attribute remained true. He would continue pursuing legal action and appealing with his lawyers for another 8 years. This involved more than 80 lawsuits and countersuits. And finally, in January of 2020, Michael Jordan received favorable
I was like, which
news by
game
the
is that? It's
Supreme
not
Court.
WoW.
The news being that the court had reassessed their prior decision and determined that Jiaodan had likely infringed on Michael Jordan's personality rights. But what we find is that this nearly decade-long legal battle really wasn't even worth it. As in the end, despite the court's ruling with Michael Jordan, he was only granted $54,000 in damages for emotional damages and legal expenses. He was never given any compensation in terms of the sales that the company made. And I think this is a great point to sort of highlight that there's no way to really stop these Jordan bootlegs. Year after year, these bootleg shoes continue to be manufactured at alarming rates and are pretty easy to find if you're looking for them. And those unaware are actively getting scammed on a regular basis. But for the time being, it doesn't look like anything can be done about these. Well, you've made it to the end. Let me know what you guys thought about this video.
It was
down below
good.
in
It
the
was
comment section, and let me know.
It was good. It was gold. Let me just click cast something here. Here's the new Kira TV. Thank you, Wavy Web Surf. I'd like to sub to your channel.
Me, some of the most hilariously intriguing
And thank you, Kira TV. I'd like to sub to your channel.
27th, 2021. A French-Canadian man prepared for the day with his usual routine, consisting of a morning workout, shower, and a cup of black coffee. In the years leading up to today, he would usually grab a briefcase and head to the office where he worked, providing IT support for his fellow Canadian government employees. Instead, due to the pandemic, he headed upstairs to his home office where a computer awaited him with 6 monitors and 2 keyboards. But today, there was something very different. Noises outside, shouting, car doors slamming, a loud commotion for a quiet suburb in Quebec. As Sebastian looked out of the window, searching for the source of the disturbance, it all became quite clear. There, approaching his house like a swarm of tactically geared ants, were the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They were coming to raid his house again, but this time it would be the last. Hi, your files are encrypted by NetWalker. If for some reason you read this text before the encryption ended, this can be understood.
Your skill has increased.
If the computer slows down and your heart rate has increased due to the ability to turn it off, then we recommend that you move away from the computer and accept that you have been compromised. In the year 2021, according to statistics, 20% of all cybercrimes were attributed to what we call
Your skill has
ransomware.
increased.
That is 623.3 million ransomware attacks per year, distributed across the globe, targeting both individuals and businesses, regardless
Your skill
of
has
size
increased.
or importance. Ransomware refers to a malicious software that blocks access to a computer system, usually demanding a payment
Your skill
in
has
Bitcoin
increased.
or otherwise easily transferred digital currency to then unlock the system. Essentially, somebody gains access to your computer and restricts access to your files, often then combing through them for anything they can use to blackmail you with, and then offers you the opportunity to pay them for the trouble of not exposing that to the public. These leaks are often posted to the dark web, sometimes bundled up as sales of data, often posted publicly just to punish those who would refuse to pay up. You might then ask why? Why would they still post the information if there's nothing to be gained personally by the hackers? The answer is to scare future victims. If word got out that the threats of exposure were toothless, people would simply ignore the threats, have their hard drives reformatted, rebuild their system, and declare the restricted files as lost forever. An inconvenience, but nothing too major. But if there was a certainty that banking documents, pictures, identity, credit card numbers, and any other number of secrets kept on that hard drive would make their way to the hands of the shady underground internet, referred to as the dark web, well, suddenly paying becomes much more attractive as a concept. After all, this would open them up to any number of other potential crimes, and that goes just for individuals. For businesses, well, it's both more complicated as well as simpler. Now it's not just damages to themselves they need to worry about, but to that of their clients, partners, shareholders, and more. Still, looking at the statistics, only around 10% of ransomware victims actually send a payment to unlock their files and to prevent them being posted. But 10% of hundreds of millions of attacks is still a substantial amount, resulting in ransomware
I can train you in
being a
first aid techniques.
multi-billion-dollar business year on year.
I can train you in
One of
first
the most
aid
lucrative
techniques.
industries on the planet for cost versus profit. And of course, of those 10% who pay, it heavily skews towards companies due to their willingness to trade short-term capital to avoid long-term damage. Realistically, this becomes a business decision. If a company refuses a few $100,000 ransom, it can result in the loss of millions of dollars in restoring their lost service and data, let alone the reputational cost. So now you know the business of ransomware, but what does an attacker usually look like? If you picture this in your head right now,
Your skill has increased.
A foreign national who is far removed from the consequences of such cybercrime. Maybe they're sitting in a hoodie in a dark room. The reality, however, is that the business of ransomware has been increasingly operating like a real company now for many years. They have customer support representatives all over the world for different languages. They have regular office jobs during
Your
the
skill
day
has
and
increased.
activities by night. They can be your average everyday person, your boss, your brother, your co-worker, your neighbor, and that's what makes the dark web and modern day crime completely unpredictable. It's right there in plain sight, and it's easily accessible. Which is why in 2021, 66% of
Your skill has
organizations
increased.
reported being affected by ransomware in some way, which was an increase of 78% compared to 2020. An insane number that's only getting bigger as time goes on. So what about how a ransomware attack happens? What does it look like? Well, this is what it looks like from a cybersecurity expert's perspective. In August 2020, Arthur keeps sat in his home office in Vancouver. Arthur worked for a large real estate developer called Amacon. He was handling an email from a co-worker who was having trouble opening a network.
God damn it.
file. Luckily, Arthur managed to gain access to the system after using alternative methods, only to realize that the files on the system had been
God damn
copied
it.
from .doc to random garbage.
It's okay.
He quickly realized somebody had been in the system.
Ghosts
and
are a bad
now,
idea, I
when the
guess.
files
They're
were
like stronger
opened,
than I thought.
It instead opened a message from the hacker that
annoying.
read exactly what you heard at the beginning of this video. Hi, your files are encrypted by NetWalker. At this point, the options for most people are very simple. You're faced with two of them, and this is how they play out. Option one, you follow the link provided, which takes you to a chat program on a dark web portal that was specifically designed to facilitate negotiations for payment. They tell you how much they want, you haggle, and then you pay the money to a Bitcoin address, at which point they unlock your files and wish you a pleasant day. After all, for them, this is simply business, no hard feelings. Option number two, you don't click the link, you don't negotiate, negotiations fail, or some other conclusion that results in the ransom not being paid. If you're an individual, your information is then posted online, and you now run the risk of a whole number of other potential crimes. Cyberstalking, harassment from other scammers, who now have partial or full access to a whole dump of information about you, potentially your family. And if you're a business, well, you are now locked out of a bunch of files that you better have a backup for, your systems need to be rebuilt, anything tied to your network no longer works, and you might be out for the count for days, weeks, or months, depending on how centralized you kept things. You've also lost the respect, trust, and potential business of your customers, and could quite literally go bust due to the combination of events. That's why, for businesses, this comes down to a simple game of numbers. What would it cost to comply versus what would it cost to ignore? To pay up might cost them 1% of their yearly revenue, but to lose access to their files could cost them everything. For Arthur and Amacon, they didn't pay. Instead, they relied on his expertise and safeguards to restore their data in a timely manner and continue as if nothing had happened. Within 72 hours, due to his precautions and knowledge, they were back up and running. No harm, no foul. Amacon, though, is the exception here. They are an outlier who are lucky to have Arthur in his preparation. Most companies spend close to $0 on cybersecurity, and even when they do, the damages often transcend that of finances. What does that sentence mean? Well, if you look at the stats, one of the industries impacted most by ransomware is the health industry, which can mean delays in diagnosis and treatment of critically unwell patients. Which means that there's not just dollar value damages due to ransomware, but actual human life and risks of societal or civil unrest. A clear example of this is the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, who lost access to most of their systems, phone lines, imaging results, and more for multiple months, crippling their ability to provide care to sick children. This
A
is
children's
one example, and the numbers
hospital?
speak for themselves of the scope. In 2021,
What?
just the US health industry was hit
Fucking
by
assholes.
$7.8 billion in damages in downtime alone. Ransomware has become the boogeyman of modern cybercrime. And why? Because where it previously was individuals throwing out a little net hoping to catch a couple small fishes, the industry has been taken over by Amazon, Coca-Cola, Walmart, Microsoft, and more. No, not those actual companies, just the scale of them. There are now businesses that are treating ransomware as a
May the
service.
stars guide you.
They've elevated what was a disorganized and niche crime into something far scarier and far larger.
Hello.
They've built tools, training, infrastructure, and they've recruited talented individuals. And in 2020, they found their most valuable asset to date, Sebastian. Sebastian seemed, on surface
Farewell.
level, a normal guy, respectable, in good shape, and of course trustworthy. That is, if you didn't know his history, which it seemed nobody did. In 2015, at the age of 27, Sebastian was charged with 7 counts of possession for the purpose of trafficking drugs. In his house, they found a locked room that contained 45 kilograms of marijuana, 60,000 methamphetamine tablets, 8,600 grams of hash, 13,000 ecstasy pills, and a money counting machine. Somehow, this treasure trove of illegal substances and evidence of his dealing going back to 2012 or earlier only netted Sebastian 3.5 years behind bars.
What?
Which he only served a handful of months. Somehow, even more bizarrely, this federal conviction didn't disqualify Sebastian for the job he gained in the Canadian government. Just 1 year later in 2016, Sebastian was in gainful employment as an IT specialist for the Canadian Public Services. Now, did prison and a government job stop the otherwise normal guy from his life of crime? No, of course not. During the day, Sebastian went to the office and performed his IT responsibilities, and during the evening, he continued to traffic narcotics. That is, until he was caught, yet again, in 2019. Despite that, he still didn't stop. He seemed determined to live a double life. One as a white-collar worker who no one would ever consider could be up to anything nefarious, and the other as a dark web crime kingpin. There was one lesson he did learn though, and that was to put the physical act of hoarding narcotics behind him, instead answering an ad on the dark web that asked, "Do you want to participate in ransomware attacks?" To which he typed, "Yes." Over the next months, Sebastian worked with Netwalker to learn the tools of the trade, how to use their software, who to use it on, what to say when it worked, what to say when it didn't. You see, Netwalker was a serious organization. They had protocols, support staff, hierarchy of management, training, and of course guidelines. This wasn't some basement operation where anything goes. You have to comply with their rules. The most important of which was who exactly could become their victims. Netwalker specifically focused on business instead of chaos. They didn't want to cast a wide net, risking exposure or capture for a very small percentage payout from individuals or small businesses. Instead, they set sights on companies with a specific dollar value of yearly revenue. If a company didn't turn over more than $30 million per year in revenue, they were off the hook and ignored, even if access was guaranteed. Netwalker was not participating in ransomware to steal secrets or publish information for fun. They did this purely to make money, just like every other business on the planet, though of course blatantly more illegal. So why 30 million? Why that number? Well, they also had another rule. The initial ask for ransom would amount to 1% of the total revenue, meaning their floor for payouts from each business was $300,000 each. Anything below that was deemed not worth their time. Why? Because by 2021, they had discovered the ugly and uncomfortable truth about how ransomware is allowed to work. Companies of this size, they'd found, were more likely to pay up than to risk the embarrassment and disruption of their business, and would have the cash on hand to do so. Instead of wasting time arguing over tens of thousands of dollars with thousands of victims, they could simply target the whales and get a higher percentage conversion rate for a higher dollar value. For this reason, Netwalker very quickly made a name for themselves in the world of cybercrime. They were the ransomware company. People wanted to work with them, they had the best affiliates signing up, they were essentially printing money without performing any of the actual crime or legwork themselves. On top of that, they were originally a Russian-only organization, putting them far from the reaches of federal governments in the Western world who would want to arrest them for billions of dollars in yearly damages. This essentially made them insulated and printing money passively. After all, you could either play in the little leagues for pennies, or you could give Netwalker a big kickback and join the major leagues for the big bucks. This is exactly where Sebastian found himself in April of 2020. His training had finished, and he was ready to become a networker, the next step in his criminal career. Very quickly, Sebastian earned himself a reputation as being somewhat of a legend. The networker organization was the cream of the crop. This was the big time, and Sebastian was their most valuable player by far. He was securing ransoms faster than any of the 100 or so other affiliates, gaining massive sums of Bitcoin in the process. He was so successful, in fact, that they convinced him to begin teaching courses of his success on the dark web with classrooms full of aspiring cybercriminals. This guy was like the Michael Jordan of ransomware. During 1 year of being an affiliate with Networker, Sebastian secured over half of their entire operational earnings. To put that in a dollar amount, in just 1 year, he managed to single-handedly extort over $21.5 million, where Networker's entire operational earnings worldwide was $40 million in the same period. But to anyone outside of Sebastian's world, nothing in this year changed at all. He wasn't making the same mistakes as many petty criminals who quickly come into vast wealth.
Yeah,
There were no
greed is
sports
always the
cars,
mistake.
Gucci flip-flops, Louis Vuitton bags, or Richard Mille watches. No big houses, no models, and no private jet pictures on Instagram. He was still driving his mundane car, living in his modest suburban house.
Smart man.
It seemed as if he was treating the criminal enterprise as a high score on a Pac-Man machine, simply trying to reach the highest number he could, with no impulse to quit while ahead or splash the incredible sums of stolen wealth. In fact, if it wasn't for the simple mechanics of how crime works, Sebastian may never have been caught due to how careful he was. But this is real life, and Sebastian was about to find out just how hard that statement hits. Let's look at it like this. If you're a small-time nobody using your own software and stealing a few dollars here and there, sure, you're not in the big leagues, but you also have a singular point of failure, and that is you, yourself. If you were to do everything perfectly, you would likely remain completely insulated for your entire career. But when working as essentially a franchised element of an organization like Networker, you are sitting atop a house of cards during a shitstorm. You could do everything perfectly, but one slip up from anybody else in the whole organization, and you could be the one paying the price. Not just that, but everything you do is now amplified. You're earning huge sums of money, but you're also causing even larger sums of damages. You're shutting down oil companies, which is causing queues at the pumps and increased prices. You're shutting down hospitals for sick kids. You're shutting down law firms and putting stress on the legal system. You are part of a group that has a brand name who are being pointed at by the most powerful federal agencies on the planet. And unlike the owners of that brand name who are hiding in Russia, Sebastian was in Canada, a stone's throw away from a federal prison cell. And little did he know, the cards beneath him were about to fall. While sleeping, Sebastian's life was about to change forever. You see, the US government had found the weak link, and it was ironically the stick that all ransomware operators were using to persuade their victims to pay up. That stick, of course, was the punishment blog operated by Networker, the website hosted on the dark web that acted as a treasure trove of data from those who decided not to negotiate with the hackers. A website that in a single 12-month period represented billions of dollars in damages with the information that they posted. But even dark websites have to be hosted somewhere, and it just so happened that the FBI had discovered exactly where. A Bulgarian server, which was now scheduled to be taken down during a multifaceted operation that would see Sebastian in cuffs, and the blog changed to a familiar site for dark websites, a logo of the FBI, and a notice of seizure. On January 27th, 2021, this is exactly what happened. The Networker blog redirected to an FBI notice, and once that rock was lifted, the Networker operators scattered in every direction, their 100 or so affiliate members along with them. But right there, with a bright light shining on him, was the single most valuable member of the organization, and the only one remaining to face the consequences. Royal Canadian Mounted Police took him into custody, searching his home in the process. Within minutes, they knew they had the right man. Hundreds of thousands of dollars hidden across the house, keys to safety deposit boxes with hundreds of thousands of dollars across multiple boxes, and of course dozens of laptops, computers, and Bitcoin wallets containing over 790 Bitcoin, valued at the time of seizure at around 30 million Canadian dollars. At this point, the RCMP began their investigation with an emphasis on finding Sebastian's Canadian victims and tracing his impact back to those attacks. And you know what they found? Well, they found that most of the companies that had been extorted for sometimes millions of dollars refused to help the investigation. Some of them outright refused to acknowledge any crime had been committed or that they were even hacked at all. Why? Well, this goes back to why ransomware can exist as a concept.
Fear.
To use a crude analogy, this is why you don't negotiate with terrorists. If every single time a ransomware attack happened, the company or the individual refused to pay, ransomware would cease to exist, as it then wouldn't be profitable to engage in, which would lead the criminals to find other things to do with their time that actually paid for that effort. The only way ransomware can exist is because somebody paid. At that point, it became a business worth pursuing, which made it grow, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you discover as you deep dive into the murky waters of ransomware, though, is that most companies of a certain size will simply pay the ransom to avoid embarrassment, regulatory repercussions, loss of trust from customers or partners, and potential for larger damages. The difference between paying a $300,000 ransom or rebuilding your system without adequate backups could easily cost tens of millions of dollars in finances alone, let alone the damage to your business reputation, which may never recover. And regardless of whether they pay or not, many businesses do not wish to acknowledge that they were ever the victim of an attack in the first place, even if it means getting restitution in the process. Which makes the statistics of reported ransomware
Damn
attacks
it.
thought to
Fucking
be a
mouse keeps
fraction
fucking up.
of those that
Come on,
exist,
man, stop.
with some experts claiming
What?
around 95% simply go unreported. So, with all that in mind, what became of Netwalker and Sebastian in the end? After the seizure, Netwalker ceased operation, although since the masterminds of the operation were never caught, it's unlikely that they're gone for good. As for Sebastian, he cooperated with Canadian authorities, telling them everything he knew about how the ransomware world works, but refusing to give up any names or members of his organization. He pled guilty to extortion and other crimes, being sentenced to 7 years in prison during the Canadian trial. The United States had other plans, however. They extradited him to Florida, where the FBI task force had been situated, and proceeded to charge him again with the same crimes, which he also pleaded guilty to. The lawyers agreed to a 13 to 14-year sentence, which was the lowest they could go due to sentencing guidelines. The judge, however, did not agree. Instead, he compared Sebastian to a modern-day Jesse James, using a computer instead of a gun to rob banks, pointing out the incredible damage he caused, as well as the lack of mitigating circumstances surrounding his reasons to commit such crimes. After all, there was no discernible reason as to why he turned to a life of crime. He grew up normally, he was educated, parents were loving, money was never tight, jobs were never scarce, he was never lonely, he didn't use the money to live lavishly or anything like that, and there was no end in sight. It seemed like he did it all just to see if he could, which played a factor when the judge sentenced him to the maximum for the crimes, which was 20 years in federal custody. And that is the takedown of Netwalker Sebastian Rachon de Jonder, the best Netwalker, but only 1% of the affiliate operation. A single person out of over 100, and never the mastermind. A man who was responsible for over $21.5 million of ransoms within a single year, who single-handedly infiltrated over 100 businesses across the United States and Canada, causing hundreds of millions, potentially even billions of dollars in damages for those who needed to rebuild in the aftermath of their refusal to pay. And yet, hundreds of his students and those who recruited him are still out there, committing crimes we never see, that are never reported, and yet cost all of society all the same. In the final confession of Sebastian, he admitted that in the weeks leading up to his arrest, he was helping Netwalker to create a new, bigger, and better version of the ransomware. Meaning, if they're not already back, when they are, it could be worse than ever.
Yep. Attack Raven Cyber Academy. Oh, thank you, Akira TV, for excellent content for my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel. Thank you, Attack Raven Cyber Academy. I'd like to sub to your channel. Oh, did we? Oh no, we didn't have anything. Okay. Also want to look at something else. Oh God. Yeah, we'll watch that one next time.
Well, I kind of characterize myself as a little bit of having a similar story like the Frank Abagnale Catch Me If You Can.
Oh,
Because
come
when I was
on.
younger, I was really fascinated with telephones, computers, and magic, and I became a hacker. Not a hacker for profit.
Magic?
Today, but more a hacker.
Talking about magic?
for curiosity.
Who is Kevin Mitnick? Kevin Mitnick, once called the most wanted hacker, is an American security researcher who was born in Los Angeles in 1963. In 1975, as a 12-year-old boy, Mitnick was already using the art of social engineering and dumpster diving to bypass the punch card system used in the Los Angeles bus system for taking free rides with buses around LA. In 1979, at the age of 16, he gained unauthorized access into Digital Equipment Corporation's computer network, also known as DEC.
Digital Equipment Corporation.
It was a great honor for Digital. It was a company to be with. Just tons and tons of camaraderie and teamwork and working together to find solutions.
The excitement is what I remember the most. The excitement of being at the top or very close to the top. The excitement of new products, new services.
I'm part of it, and that makes me proud.
5 silver.
And resulted in the leak of their software after a group of fellow hackers who were working for the LA Unified School District dared him to hack the ARC, the computer system at DEC at that time. They gave him a dial-up number to the DEC
You need
computer
to make your
system, but
stitches
without any
smaller,
username or
adventurer.
password.
Fewer items will
Mitnick
slip
at
out
such
of
a
your
young
quivers
age
and
called the
ammo
systems
pouches.
manager,
Besides,
pretending
no
to
one
be
likes a lumpy
Anton
tunic.
Chernoff, a lead developer of the system, and managed to convince the manager that he forgot his password and that he needed to reset it. He logged in with the account of a system developer, meaning that he got all the privileges of a system developer and not an ordinary user. To believe him, he gave the credentials of the privileged account to the so-called friends hackers of his. They downloaded the source code of the DEC operating system and
You
then
need to
called
make
their
your
security
stitches smaller,
department and told
adventurer.
them that someone
Fewer
hacked into
items
their
will slip
system,
out of your quivers
turning
and ammo
Mitnick in.
pouches.
In
Besides,
the early
no one
1980s,
likes a
most
lumpy
security
tunic.
systems were simple and pretty vulnerable to the increasing volume of digital data. Phreaking, or phone phreak, a technique where Mitnick mastered through his youth years and described it as phone phreaking as a type of hacking that allows you to explore the telephone network by exploiting phone systems and phone company employees. Mitnick was making phone calls impersonating a police officer and a company representative and managed to elicit the requester code, that is, the code that DMV workers use to confirm a trusted source, by deceiving the DMV clerk and then to gain access to the system files of the California Department of Motor Vehicles, or the DMV. Mitnick, though, hacked an administrator account by using his friend's father's account and gained access to the DMV system. His friend Micah, on the other hand, tried to do the same, and he wasn't as successful enough as Mitnick in covering his tracks, and therefore the company noticed the breach and notified the FBI. Micah pointed the finger to Mitnick, who later was paid a visit by the FBI. Mitnick then, who wasn't even 18 years old, and computer hacking was not even regulated at that time, resulted in nothing more than a warning from the authorities to the young Kevin. Mitnick was just encouraged by the latest incident and soon started exploring his curiosity again. He wanted to see how far he would go by just making a phone call or by accessing a machine. This time, Mitnick, with the help of his friend Lewis, socially engineered an attack through the phone to a U.S. leasing giant company. He managed to deceive the company employee by pretending to be a technician who was calling to report a computer bug. Then he got access to an admin account to quote-unquote fix the problem. Lewis's girlfriend, though, who broke up with him, wanted vengeance. She was also a hacker and managed to gain control over the U.S. leasing system herself by the data Lewis had laying around, and gave Mitnick to the cops. Mitnick was arrested and sentenced to stay in a juvenile detention center for 90 days because he was 17 at the time.
Wow.
Mitnick graduated from a short computing program at school and then managed to get a job at GTE Telephone Company, who he previously hacked, but luckily he was never caught. His job was to identify areas of weaknesses of the company's systems and improve their security. After only 9 days at the job, he was fired because he had to have access to sensitive information about the company, and his managers wanted to run a background check on him. He refused because it could lead to finding out that he was a convicted hacker. Soon enough, Mitnick was caught red-handed when he hacked into the Santa Cruz Operations, or SCO. The company filed a lawsuit against him for a whopping $1.4 million. The only reason they did that was that the company wanted to know how he hacked into their systems. So in exchange for his cooperation, they dropped their charges, luckily for Mitnick. In 1989, Mitnick found him in jail again, after a friend of his told the police about his hacking activities. Upon completing his sentence, he couldn't resist getting back into the hacking game, and at that time, Eric Hines was gaining popularity as the new hacker in town, and Mitnick wanted to find out more. After several meetings with him, Mitnick was suspicious about Hines, who told him that he could listen to every phone call in California after having his hands-on access codes. Mitnick managed to listen to Hines' phone call conversations to find out that he was an FBI agent wanting to put Mitnick behind bars and get a search warrant for his house. At 28, Mitnick began spying on the FBI, trying to outsmart them.
What?
FBI agents were watching every move of Mitnick, and they were ready to clinch every opportunity they had to get a search warrant or a piece of evidence.
I would have just left.
Mitnick was expecting a visit from them, so he cleaned up his apartment, and to let them know that he was aware of what was going on, he even put donuts in the fridge with a note, FBI donuts. FBI didn't manage to find anything to charge Mitnick, but their investigation wasn't over yet. After the 3 years of probation ended, he could now travel. And after the visit of the FBI to his mother after his probation ended, he knew that to avoid going to prison, he needed to move to a new town with a new identity. He was able to move to Las Vegas, and by using his social engineering skills, he managed to acquire a fake social security number and birth certificate under the name of Eric Wise, the real name of his lifelong idol, Harry Houdini. Mitnick was always sure to carry on him his money and ID at the time. This resulted in him being robbed at the gym, where the thief stole $11,000 from his locker. After that, Mitnick decided to find a real job and moved to Denver, Colorado. He got an interview at Home, Robertson Owen, and a local law firm.
No shit!
Brilliant interview, but he was lacking references, so he invented a fake company, a fake phone number, and a fake P.O. box, and put it in his resume. He socially engineered his interviews after making a call to them pretending to be his former employer, where he gave himself a perfect recommendation, landing him the job position. Cell phone technology was booming at that time, and Mitnick was eager to learn
The
how
grace
the
with
new
which I
devices
fight
by
is not something I can teach you, but I can teach you the use of various weapons.
Out of range.
He hacked Nokia and Motorola and gained access to their source code. Hacking NEC, though, almost got him in trouble when the NEC systems administrator noticed some of the company's source code was being transferred to an LA server. While hacking NEC, he intercepted the email where the administrator sent to the FBI informing them about the leaked source code, making him take precautions to avoid prison. In the mid-90s, a 30-year-old Mitnick was having a good time with his job at the law firm in Denver. His bosses soon after find out that he was making social engineering calls during his lunch break, and then they proceeded to fire him because they were suspicious that he was using company resources to perform independent consultancy work. He moved to Seattle, Washington, and changed his name to Brian Merrill. He found a job in the tech industry, but living the life of a fugitive can mess with your psyche, which is what happened to Mitnick. He was convinced that he was being followed by the authorities and that they knew where he lived and that even his phone was being tracked by them.
Nope,
He
it's never
eventually
that
caught the
easy.
attention of the
They've got to
Seattle
do a lot of
authorities
work to
by
get
his
that.
strategy of covering his tracks while making free
He
phone
puts too
calls
much faith
and
in them.
spoofing
My
his
faith
phone
would be in
number to look
myself.
like he was calling
I'd be like,
from a
well,
different phone
if they show up, here's the
FBI got
contingency,
involved
but
then,
I don't
and then a
trust them
former
enough
friend
to
of
do
his
that.
regarded as a
I've never
hacker,
met a
now working
competent
for the
cop.
FBI and
I'm sorry, I met competent cops. I've never met competent detectives that I didn't think I couldn't trick. You know, competent detectives are they exist, but they're not common. They're often they're paper pushers. They're not, and they're chasing a pension. They're not truly in it to be special. They come from a culture that dislikes snowflakes, and so they tend to be paper pushers, and they don't scare me that much. Real cops to be like people that would come at me on the streets, I'd be about the same, really. I would say. I've been there, kind of in and out of that, seen it.
After Mitnick called in, the FBI learned that Brian Merrill...
They're almost never after you. If they are, you see them. They're either on their way. They're never sitting outside. I mean, they'll sit outside your car, your house in a car. But I mean, who pays them to do that? It's not common for them to do that. They'll do it, but it's not common.
Be careful. The grace with which I fight is not something I can teach you, but
Yeah,
I
I want to learn
use of
bows,
various
but 10
weapons.
silver is a lot. I made a lot of heavy linen bandages. I have this gem copper thing that might sell. I don't know. Probably not, though. I'm just gonna go over there. Oh, I have a charm, do I? Yes, I do. Okay, so yeah, his health is good, but the gobs are stacked. I kind of want to wait. Am I already a Mora? No, I'm not a Mora, but I kind of came pretty far. I'm okay for this trip. I bet I'd die before that. So I've noticed that AFK Beastmaster gets a lot of death, but I'm actually okay with it. It's such a fast walk back that feels honest, That's what I get for auto battling, I like auto battling when it feels high stakes like this, like it actually has real effect. And if you die in this game, you lose like a 5th year level. It's actually high stakes auto battler. You actually do have to pay attention often. Shit, am I looking at this right? No, yeah, I'm at the auction house. Yeah. Right, how are we doing now? Yeah, the zoo's gonna die. One of the nice things about leveling is eventually I get, you can blow all this money on jugs if you want, or you can just have fun in the wild, which is what I like doing. Because it's random. It's really random to watch them all do stuff. It's kind of cool. I'm just going to start selling all this because it's just insane. I noticed that my pots went up because I was like pickpocketing. I think I better pickpocket a lot. So let's sell these. Yeah, I don't need that. I want you to be bigger. Yeah. And I want you to sell everything that I've got. Yeah, sell those. I mean, I doubt they'll sell. This will sell. Yeah, two silver, not bad. Refreshing water, 5 light armor kits. Let's do 20, a stack of 20. 20 seems low to them, it's perfect. Yep, that's what I want. And recipe long jaw. Yeah, this black. Yeah, hey, cool. Silver 89 isn't bad. Yeah. Can I sell that? Well, wait, what happened to it? Oh, no, there we go. Yeah, what do you like? 15 silver for that. Yeah, fucking right. Right. But I need this. But I mean, it never occurred to me to resell this to people who are desperate. Yeah, why not? It's expensive to buy. But it doesn't matter. Now, the rest of my money has to go to fishing, but I mean, yeah, that's good. I mean, it's good. I've been leveling too much. It's nice to get a break and do some fishing and stuff. I really like hardcore. The pacing of it is so much better. It's what I wanted from the original classic that I didn't get. The classic people were all in their fucking grind and everything. This is all about being careful, moving slow, being ready, going to the camps when you're ready, not fucking up, not being AFK, all this other shit. I need training.
I can teach you fishing skills.
Expensive.
May the stars
Yeah, I mean, I
guide
guess
you.
I do sit here for a bit. I sit here because I can't really die here. I can't really die here. So, yeah, we learned fishing. We did. We know what's that sound? Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, kill him. Yeah, you served me well, Zoo. Time to die. Time to go to the place of the Nether Shadow Realm. Goodbye. Yeah, and we go fishing, right? We're going fishing. Da 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 da. General. Fishing, right? Come here, and then yes, and we must buy a fishing rod.
Peace be with you.
23 copper, nice. And then we will put this on the bar. Along with, I don't think fishing needs to be on the bar. Yeah. Or no, yeah, it does. But yeah, there's the fishing pole. No, fishing needs to be on the bar. It does. And then and then the 2 daggers, where'd they go? Yep, need to be blurg and blurg. Right? Yeah, we will fish. We'll fish for a while. All right, let's take this. Oh no, I guess I gotta. Well, I gotta heal. That's okay though. Okay, play this guy.
Was the infamous fugitive Kevin Mitnick. Mitnick knew that the FBI was closing in on him, and he decided to move to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Great.
Since Mitnick didn't do code, he needed to find someone who did, and someone who had custom cellular.
Know what happened there?
software.
You didn't do anything at all.
Mitnick, after unsuccessful
I guess that
attempts
failed,
to
huh?
code with others, he targeted Tsutomu Shimomura, a
Fish got away,
computer
yep.
security expert who was at the time working to federally finance the San Diego Supercomputer Center.
What happened was Kevin, or one of his associates, and close to Kevin, broke into one of my machines on Christmas Day in 1994 in San Diego while I was out of town trying to go skiing. And a team of us, 2 or 3 of us actually, 2 of us flew back. There were other people present. We decided that we needed to analyze these machines to figure out how this break-in had been accomplished, what damage had been done.
That guy will kill me.
What was it that drove him to break into your computer?
We don't know for sure. My best guess is that he knew that I do computer security research. This is one of the things I've been doing for the last few years. He knew as a researcher, and my guess is that he thought that I might have some information on my machines that would help him break into other machines.
Mitnick eventually broke into the home computer of Tsutomu, and he was able to track Mitnick down. He, Tsutomu, determined that last week Mitnick was operating through a modem connected to a cellular phone somewhere near Raleigh, North Carolina. And after a series of hints, he understood that Mitnick was using a cellular telephone and modem to conceal his location. He then flew to Raleigh and helped the telephone company and federal investigators to use cellular frequency scanners to determine the apartment complex of Mitnick's calls. He also uses the help of John Markoff, a reporter of the New York Times who in 1991 co-authored a book called Cyberpunks, and was no stranger to Mitnick. Markoff was a victim of Mitnick's, who he previously hacked his email account. Tsutomu then proceeded with the help of John Markoff.
Not having
to write a
too much
paper,
luck here.
Takedown: The Pursuit and Capture of America's Most Wanted Computer Outlaw, and analyzing in technical details of how they caught him. On the 15th of February 1995, and after being on the run for 3 years, Mitnick finally got caught by the FBI. He had charges filed against him in the courtroom in North Carolina.
Yeah, I'll have to go back.
Treated as a
Sucks.
supervillain by the prosecutors, and they charged him with 20 years in prison for every cloned cell phone call. With 23 legal calls, he was
Please
facing
do.
460 years in prison.
I saw myself as an electronic joyrider having a great time on the information superhighway. I felt like I was like James Bond behind the computer. It was a big game to me. I was having a blast.
I was just having a blast. You look crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a
Waspy white
invasion of
guy.
privacy. Going and getting access to other people's information is obviously a gross invasion of privacy, and it is wrong.
And that didn't bother you?
Bothers
at the time
me.
I was doing it. No.
Disgusting.
The victim breeds like a who's who of big business. They include Motorola, Sun Microsystems, Nokia,
Your skill has
and
increased.
software maker Novell. All told, the companies estimate Mitnick
Oh, wait, I need to go to the
$300 million in damages.
I
to
believe
the
I
bank.
caused some damage but nowhere near that number. I was an accomplished computer trespasser. I don't consider myself a thief. I didn't deprive these companies out of their software. I merely made a copy without doing anything more with it.
The mobile phone companies demanded $300 million in damages from Mitnick because of the source code hacks and the 20,000 credit card numbers he had in his possession.
Your skill has increased.
In reality, Mitnick never used any of the information or source code.
Damn, he down my
for personal
download.
gain or profit, but only to
Maybe I
feed his
better take it
curiosity.
seriously.
The FBI wanted to set an example for future hackers with the never heard of charges, even denied the right to check evidence or have a bail hearing. The quote-unquote Free Kevin campaign was quickly created after the hearing and the prosecutor's charges for Kevin. Their followers even hosted a website for supporting him. The Free Kevin movement
Nice,
made
good
a
job.
huge difference for Mitnick and received a better plea agreement,
100 XP.
resulting in a decrease in the number of damages that he should pay from $300 million to $4,125. His sentence was also reduced to 5 years in prison. On January 21st, 2000, Mitnick was released from the prison grounds of Lompoc, California. At the time, he was not able to use a computer, cellular phone, and any
Nope,
medium
don't
for
touch anything
communication
for a
technology
while.
for another 3 years. Mitnick came out and
Yeah,
criticized
right,
his
that's not gonna work
prosecutors
for him.
misrepresenting his image while stating that his case was only to feed his curiosity. He made a series of interviews which he accused Markov and others of portraying him as a monster. Mitnick decided to change his life altogether after being released. U.S. Senator Fred Thompson and Joseph Lieberman invited him by a letter to take part in a Senate hearing to protect the U.S. government and their computer systems from cyber attacks. Mitnick saw that as an opportunity to offer his expertise for the good. After receiving a lot of similar requests, and since he couldn't use a computer yet, he started earning money for helping others. He wanted to share his knowledge, so he decided to become a writer and an information security consultant. His first book, Art of Deception, became a bestseller in the first months of its release in 2002. Mitnick then, in 2003, he created a security consulting company, Mitnick Security, and started using his hacking skills for good, as a speaker or as a security consultant with his company. In 2005, he released another book, The Art of Intrusion, which was again a bestseller. As a writer and eager to share his knowledge, Mitnick went on and released another 2 books, one in 2011, Ghosts in the Wires, which he co-authored with William L. Simon, and another one in 2017, The Art of Invisibility. The world's most famous hacker teaches you how to be safe in the age of Big Brother and Big Data, which is a form of a book guide on online security and how to become invisible online, also sharing real-life examples. In 2012, Mitnick joined the cybersecurity forum KnowB4 as its Chief Hacking Officer, or CHO. He used his expertise to help organizations identify, correct, and prevent network security vulnerability. Today, Mitnick is a highly paid and successful security consultant in Mitnick Security and consults with some of the world's
Good,
biggest
he's not a
companies,
fucking
including
asshole
Microsoft,
anymore. Nice.
FedEx, Toshiba, CBS, IBM, and Lockheed Martin.
Can't be bad your whole life.
Remember, the gunpowder treason plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgotten.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. In a world where the powerful oppress the weak and the corrupt rule with impunity, there exists a group of individuals who have sworn to fight for justice and freedom. They are known as Anonymous. And here at Tech Raven Academy, we aim to shed light on the history and actions of this enigmatic activist group. Join us as we explore the world of Anonymous in their fight against tyranny and oppression.
Someone has broken into the National Bank, the Federal Reserve, a 21st century thief breaking into files, not into metal safes. The mysterious group Anonymous has struck again with a warning. This is just the beginning. ABC's senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas tells us who these people are.
This is the public face of Anonymous, the shadowy group behind the hacking attack on the Federal Reserve, which sets monetary policy for the U.S. economy.
This time there will be change, or there will be chaos.
Anonymous is a loosely affiliated network of hackers spread across the globe. During the hack of the Fed, Anonymous stole the login credentials of some 4,000 bankers from across the country, allowing the group to potentially disrupt a key emergency communication system.
Citizens of the world, we have seen the erosion of due process, the dilution of constitutional rights.
Greg House, a former member of Anonymous, says expect more attacks on the government.
All these big bankers and all these big rich people who have caused a lot